What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be diving deep into a bunch of spots that you probably don't know about in Black Ops 6. You may know a few of these, but I doubt you're going to know all of them. And these spots can really open up a lot of opportunities, at least in various situations. Now keep in mind, I am going to be jumping around from map to map a little bit here. I'm not going to do individual episodes on a per map basis, simply because some maps just don't really have too many interesting spots, whereas others have a lot. And also keep in mind, if I cover a spot in a map today, it doesn't mean I won't possibly revisit that map if there's a spot that I perhaps missed. And without further ado, let's dive into it, and let's start off with SCUD, since I have a lot of really interesting lines of sight on this map. And starting it off for this side of the map, if you're playing domination especially, oftentimes you'll have enemies standing in that area right there, and it's kind of hard to challenge them without them having the advantage, unless you come to this position right here. If you jump up on top of this, there you go, excellent line of sight on them. They're typically not going to be looking up in this area for you, so typically a free kill for you there. On top of that, from the same position, you can actually see people that are behind the sandbags there as well, although you're going to be a lot more exposed to them, and they will see you pretty clearly here. It's just worth noting you can use that as a check spot. Then, very interestingly, if you edge yourself just perfectly here, you can actually get a line of sight on these guys up here. And this is great because they can barely see you at all. They just see kind of the tip of your head, whereas you can see pretty much your entire torso and easily pick them off from here. And I should also mention, of course, that applies to this area right here as well. And again, they can only really see like the tip of your forehead here. Now, somewhat on the reverse of that spot, something I like doing, this one's a little more obvious, but I still wanted to point it out since it is a great line of sight, is just hop on the barrels like this and you get a nice line of sight over here. Obviously, you're super exposed to this area, so you have to know that that is taken care of first. But if you do, this is an excellent way to challenge these guys. After that, getting toward this building here, a lot of the times I find enemies like camping in their spawn back here, especially once you get them spawn trapped, they'll just sort of start hanging out back there. Something you can do to challenge them is to come in here, jump on top of this, and then if you edge yourself over to the left, you can stand up, and from here, you get a nice line of sight on them, and it's pretty hard for them to see inside here because it's so dark inside this room. If you've got a sniper, they will see your scope glint, but otherwise, they're not going to be seeing you here, and it's just a great way to pick them off. Alternatively, you can jump onto this area right here, and this will give you a bit of a line of sight toward people that are coming over the hill on this area, or if maybe they're on like the backside or on top of this right here, they're typically going to be looking for you down in the doorway if they even know you're in this building in the first place. So that can be a great way to take them off guard instead of just walking into their pre-aim out in the open. And then finally, sometimes if you have somebody camped up here, as long as they're not standing way too close to the front and they're backed up a little bit, which they will often do to give themselves the best cover from people out in the mid-map area, if you come all the way back to this area right here and crouch, you'll actually be able to get a line of sight on them there as well and easily pick them off. Now, kind of the reverse of that, if you're coming out of this spawn here and people are locking this building down, a lot of people don't know still that you can just jump up here and you have a really nice view into this entire room. You can easily take people out there. Obviously, you're quite exposed. I wouldn't want to linger here for very long. This is great to just break this building really quick before pushing in. And then finally on SCUD, this one is a little bit mean, but if you have somebody that's just posted up on these barrels and you just can't seem to beat them in a gunfight 50-50 like this, you do have another option here. You are going to be pretty exposed, so you want to do this fairly quickly, but you can actually see them through this crack here, and you can also shoot them through this, and they'll have no idea what hit them. Next, let's get into Rewind, and this area up here, sometimes they have people sitting up here. It's a fairly high traffic zone, and if you've got a sniper rifle at least, or something that's really accurate with a higher zoom optic, this line of sight could work for you, although you are very, very exposed, so it's not something I'd use on a regular basis, but you can get a nice line of sight toward them by just laying on top of this truck. Obviously, super exposed to the entire map over here, though. Alternatively, if you are pushed up and you happen to have this area under control, you can just jump onto this little trash can here, and that gives you an excellent line of sight on those people right there, so you can really easily pick them off, and they're generally not going to see this one coming. Again, not a place I'd want to linger for very long, but excellent as just a quick check spot and maybe pick off one kill and then move on. Now, coming from the other side of the map, if you have enemies that are just hanging out in that area and sort of locking down this broken wall here, one option for you is to jump onto this area right here, and they'll be really shadowed and you won't get a name tag, but it turns out you can shoot through here no problem. You'll lose a little bit of bullet damage, but not much. And basically from the same spot there, if you're standing up in this area, you can also lock down this general area right here, which just gives you much better cover than having to come around this way and try to challenge people while exposing your entire body. Now, if you happen to get a pesky camper that's just chilling up in this area here, and maybe they're locking it down really effectively, they've got an amazing shot, you can't challenge them from the street, and you happen to find yourself in this building, or maybe you get a call out from your teammates that somebody's up there, if you have control over this building, all you have to do is mantle onto this, and there you go. Perfect line of sight on those people, super easy to pick them off, and they're generally not going to see this one coming. Now, one final thing I wanted to show on Rewind, this works both ways, so I'll show it both ways, but if you're coming through this area here, the enemy is spawning over in that area, and you want to try to push, you're pretty exposed here. You don't have a whole lot of cover, and they have plenty of cover back there, so a great way to take them off guard is to actually go outside of the map briefly. You can just come around like this, and there you go. You got to time it right. You got to hit it pretty fast, and you have to have at least like an SMG pistol or a knife in your hands. You're not going to be able to do that with an LMG, for instance, but it's just a great way to potentially take people off guard. You can jump into this area here, pick anybody off out in the open, and now you've got a nice piece of cover here to use. Alternatively, if you're trying to break out of this spawn from the right side of the map, and you have somebody that's just like head glitching that, for instance, and you find yourself over here, it's really easy to flank them and take them off guard by just using the reverse angle like this. They'll have no idea what hit them because they're too busy looking this way. After that, let's get into Payback. I've got a few spots to show for you guys on this map, and the first one is just a little check spot. You might be able to hit like a jump snipe or something if somebody's just hanging out at the back of their spawn here. Realistically, this is more so just something you can use to see like, oh, are they still spawning back there? Is somebody camping somewhere? Maybe you could hit a jump shot with a sniper rifle, but they've really got to be holding still for you for that one. It is worth noting you can't throw grenades through this though, either way. Like it doesn't go through that direction or from the other direction, which is a bit unfortunate. I think that would be an excellent nade spot coming out of spawn here, just to help take these people off guard a little bit. But unfortunately, not the way it works. Next up, something I don't see enough people take advantage of is the attic area on this. I just wanted to point out you can get to this area through several ways, and I know a lot of people are aware of this and familiar with this, but for some reason it seems not a lot of people know about this. So there's just several different access points to get up here, and it's something that you could really take advantage of to break out of this area or just take people out that are in this building because they're often not looking upwards. Then when it comes to this building, something that is actually very useful, depending on the situation, maybe you're trying to break out of this spawn, but they got you spawn trapped back in this corner here, and you can't really go through this building. Maybe they're camping in this building. Well, all you have to do, run around like this. Excellent way to break out of that spawn. You can now shoot that person in the back or just come out this way. Obviously, this works the other way as well. Generally speaking, I can't really think of too many situations where I'd want to come this way, but it's nice to know that you have that option available. Then just a quick check spot, or if you wanted to just camp with a sniper, I guess you could do this. If you have enemies that are funneling through this area toward the B domination point and they're coming through that window, if you're all the way back in your spawn here, especially if you've got a sniper rifle, but you don't even need a sniper for this, you can actually just pick those people off quite easily, and they're generally not going to be checking all the way back toward this spawn point as they're approaching that area. So oftentimes it's just a free kill, but you are going to be reasonably useless to your team since that's really all you're going to be covering is that one single angle. Also, if I am trying to come out of this spawn here and enemies are posted up in that window and I suspect somebody's going to be there, just a great check spot / line of sight is to jump up on this like that, and there you go. Excellent line of sight on them, especially if you crouch, you get nice cover there, and you can easily pick them off through here. And they're not typically looking in this area. This should at least give you the jump on them. And then finally, something that a lot of people know about now, but not everybody, and I still see some people surprised, is these switches, instead of having to walk up to them and use the control panel, you can just shoot them, and that will activate them, whether that's opening or closing them. So you can do that from a distance. You don't have to walk up to handle those, and that's just really nice to know. It works the same on Subsonic as well, where you have those switches to open the big doors. You can just shoot them. And then finally for today's episode, let's get into Skyline. I've just got a few spots to share for you guys on this one, and the first one is a nasty snipe angle. You could also use this with just an accurate gun if you're spraying and praying a little bit, but if you get those enemies that are just head glitching on the top of the stairs there, it's pretty hard to challenge them from this area. You're at a slight disadvantage because they can use cover more effectively. So instead, what you can do is just jump onto this area right here. If you need to do a quick jump shot to check, just make sure they're there. You can do that and help line your sights up a little bit. And then you can just shoot through the hedge and get yourself a kill. Like I said, alternatively, just have an accurate gun and just kind of spray and pray through here. If you get some hit markers, keep spraying and you may end up with a kill. And you can actually do that all the way along that ledge as well. You can just start spraying around there, wait till you get a hit marker, and you may be able to take some people out, like with an LMG, for instance. Next up, I have a jump spots that you guys may or may not have seen me use in some of my videos and some of my gameplays in the background. This is using the piano jump. Now, there's the obvious piano jump to get up to this area here. That one is very useful in many situations, but the less obvious one is actually to this area here. Oftentimes you get enemies that are just spawning right in this area, and they're just gonna watch this doorway because they know you're pushed up on their spawn. So if they're doing that, you can just go from the piano right here, jump across, and there you go. Shoot them in the top of the head. You can easily deal with those people. And then from here, you've got a really easy transition to get back up into this area here. Now, speaking of being up here, just wanted to point out this little vent. This is excellent for throwing equipment through, generally from the other side, but it works this way as well. If the enemies are coming through here, you can throw that through. Like I said, more often, you're going to be throwing something through this way in order to challenge people that are in the room. It's great for like stuns and flashes if you can throw those in before approaching. And then finally on Skyline, I know this one's going to be very obvious to a lot of people. I just wanted to point it out for those that maybe aren't aware of this, and it's something that I actually use very frequently as well. That is just this little ledge here to get around. This is super useful to know if you don't already know about it. Just allows you to skirt around this area a lot more effectively than having to force yourself through this building or force yourself to drop down low and then take the stairs around. Again, I know, very obvious to some, but not to everybody. And with that, that's finally going to wrap it up for today's video on just a bunch of spots that I really want to make sure you guys are aware of. Because even though many of these will seem very situational, it's always nice to know the options that are available to you in any given situation, even if it's something you're only going to use every once in a while. And with this, like I said, I will be making this a series, so I'm going to dive into a lot of the other maps as well that I didn't cover today. But in saying that, if you guys notice there are some interesting spots that I missed on these maps that I covered today, please let me know in the comments, and I may revisit some of these maps and share some of these spots that I just didn't pick up on for this video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.